Hello. So, this whole car situation is not ideal, but that's okay. It started raining during our last live stream for part 1 of Rewriting Your History. So now I've got it in the car. I've got my laptop here, so we'll keep going. So what we had just discussed was just like how my story could look. It could look like domestic violence. It could look like divorce, relationship turnover, financial hardship, job loss, single mom, shortcomings all over the place, and then the physical injury that I had after I tried to kind of conquer all of that stuff. So it could be, I'm getting a notification, it could be that. But if it was that, like if I lived in those failures, like if I lived in those stories and lived in those limitations, then I wouldn't even be here with you right now. So part of Dream, Decide, Do is also me deciding that I really am going to do like all the things that I decided I was going to do. So in each of those situations, like with domestic violence and relationship turnover and divorce, all of that, the way that I've reframed it is that it's just, I've taken it as a learning experience. And so about 2 years ago, I really just took it on that I didn't know what I was doing with men, and I didn't want to beat myself up about it anymore. And I realized that there was coaches and teachers that I could hire. And so the way I changed my story regarding men was that I really decided that it was something I could learn. Like I could learn how to choose wisely. I could learn how to value myself more. I could learn how to understand when a man was in the right place to even be in a relationship with me. And those were things that I couldn't identify before because I just didn't have the skills. So some of this stuff, like your life may not have been set up for you to have the skills, for you to be successful, and then you fail at it. And it's almost like you fail at it, and it's almost understandable that you fail at it. But when you keep failing at it and keep failing at it, you can stay in that story, or you can take some steps. And so that's kind of where I'm going with this. And then one thing with the single mom shortcomings, and I'm going to roll my windows totally all the way up. I thought I could get away with the windows down. But with single mom shortcomings, and I'm sure many of you that are watching this or watching it on the replay will be able to relate, but there's so much that I feel like I wish I could give Jacob that I can't give him anymore as regards to like a family in the traditional sense. But the way I've reframed it is just looking at our relationship that we have and looking for ways for us to be close and for our family to just rock it and be awesome and have fun. And what I found is that, and the way I've reframed it and rewritten it, is that I have this beautiful time with him to really just do what I want to do, what I think is best, and really just to bond with him. So if we had a traditional family, I don't know, I know that Jacob and I would not be the same. And I really appreciate what Jacob and I have. And it just wouldn't be the same. And so the way I've taken it is I just really, I mourn for the loss of the family, but then I wouldn't give up now. Like, I wouldn't give it up for what we have now. I wouldn't stay in that relationship just for Jacob to have a family unit, because I feel honestly like what I've created is a lot more beautiful. And if we get on the replay and you guys can't quite hear me, I'll make an audio of this, because it is like raining its tail off. Now, for the financial hardship and job loss, that one has been a little bit harder for me to kind of contend with, because it sometimes seems like a constant reminder. Like, divorce can set you back if you're not prepared for it, of course, in a way that like you never could have imagined. And then when you go into a second marriage and a second divorce, and then when you go into being a single mom on top of it, I really stayed kind of beating myself up about like what I brought Jacob into for quite a long time. And for quite a long time also, like, I fought within myself and talked in prayer about whether or not I should even keep doing what I'm doing, like keep going down the path. And so what I decided though with that though is that it's just another way for me to reach women, honestly. So a lot of people, and an inspiration for me to create these lower cost programs. So most of the people that work with me as a personal trainer, they've got extra funds that they basically have discretionary income, because personal training is set aside for people that have that money to spend. But me going through financial hardship for most of my life, especially as a child too, going through divorces and things with my mom, is that I feel like I know the vast variety of different issues and income levels. So, and it has inspired me to create all of this free content. So the way I reframed it is that if I've been through this financial hardship and I know how hard it is, and I know how much doing free programs and these lower cost online programs were for me, it's inspired me to create all these different tiers. So I don't know if I had went through that, if I would ever, the online world calls this kind of stuff like low end sales. But for me, this is like what I feel most passionate about. Like, I love like working one-on-one with people, but because I've gone through all of these things, and because I know how many people like legitimately don't have the money to hire a personal trainer for 2 or 3 hours a week, being able to be in your ear and use all of these tools has just opened me up in a whole nother way that I think, you know, I could be like a specialty trainer and only train people that, you know, are in a certain income bracket, but that would really limit my reach. Like, I might only work with 10 or 20 people a year, opposed to now I can reach hundreds and hundreds. So that's how I've kind of reframed that one. And then my physical injury that I had, that really kind of broke me. That spiraled me down into some darkness, because my whole life has revolved around being physically able. So after I came back and I felt like I had conquered everything, and I had got these new certs, and I was an Olympic lifter, and I felt super strong, like when I hurt myself, and it was of my own doing, not caring for myself, not doing recovery, not thinking about it, when that happened, like it really slammed me. Like, that was when everything kind of just like came to a head for me. And so I reached a point though where I did feel thankful, because it forced me to love myself, and it forced me to do recovery, and it forced me to slow down. And so like this stuff, like this program and the Loving Her program, the way I reframe it now is that if I hadn't hurt myself, and if I hadn't not been able to use my arms, and if I hadn't been hammered in all of these different ways, then the beautiful work that I think I'm doing, which feels like art for Loving Her and for this course, it just wouldn't exist. So I just wanted to, as briefly as I could, kind of take you through like my own battles, like the stuff that I like, the dark stuff that gets at me sometimes. So this is a constant journey for me, and this is a part of the reason why I journal. So every single day, like, I'm rewriting what my history is, and I'm writing like what I want. So as we keep going in these trainings, I'm going to teach you more and more about like how I use journaling. So speaking of journaling, we had 2 questions on our part 1, and now I have another question for you then. Maybe after you've kind of heard like some of my stuff, if it helped you. So my first question is, or my question to you is, after all of this, what is on your heart about your history as you contemplate rewriting it? So I would like you to write down just whatever has been stirred up in you, if anything has been stirred up while you listen to me talk. And so I want to have time for you to journal about that. So what is on your heart about your history as you contemplate writing it? What's gotten stirred up? And then now, or as soon as you have time to, let's begin to write your failures into a story of opportunity. So I actually want you to take the failures that you were thinking about, wrote down this morning, and I want you to write a new story. I want you to write, and you can maybe use me or anyone else that comes to mind. Like if you have any inspiring person that's overcome things and has put it into a new perspective. Like, so for me, like, it could be like a story of just like failure of all of those things I just said, or like not like what really entrepreneur, right? Entrepreneur, single mom, entrepreneur, strong woman, badass, like all of those things. Like that's how I enter the world each day. Like that's how I've written my history. So like all of that stuff, like you can take all of that stuff and you could present it to me and you could say that I can't do this or I can't do that because of all of these reasons. But then I would come back at you and be like, no. So, yeah, I might have divorces under my belt. But I also desire and require a certain standard out of a man for me to stay with that person. So that's my comeback to that one, if it ever comes up. And then the physical injury part, like, yeah, like I know how to go hard and all of that stuff is good. But then now I'm more well-rounded. I'm well-rounded to a point where like I kind of feel almost unstoppable as a trainer now, because I not only know all of the programming for sports performance and general fitness, but then that you can keep on going with it. Okay? So it's your turn. It's time for you to rewrite your story and whatever comes to your mind. So open your journal, and then I just want you to write freely without any judgment of yourself. Okay? And hopefully write freely for 2 or more pages. I find that if I try to just tell myself to keep going, some more stuff comes out. So write until there's nothing left in you. And if for some reason nothing is coming out, then you might just write, nothing is coming out for me right now, and you could maybe write about that. Okay, but maybe just try to keep writing is my main thing. It gets you into the habit of being there with yourself, thinking about your failures, and then thinking about how you want the story to read instead of how it feels like it is right now. Okay, and then message me any questions, or you can put your comments within the comment section of this live stream. So thanks for joining me. Bye.